You're listening to the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network. Yeah, it's a mouthful. For more great shows like the one you're about to enjoy, visit electronicmediacollective.com. And now, our feature presentation.
This is Randy. In the future, following past trends of televised poker, ESPN will begin broadcasting competitive Cards Against Humanity.
This is Jesse. In the future, you won't have to worry about that arbitrary tweet or status update being misconstrued due to the lack of nonverbal cues or tone and inflection, because social media will incorporate your thoughts and emotions into every post. Not ironically, that same year, the U.S. government will completely remove any social media presence whatsoever.
This is Melanie, and in the future, in an attempt to get more in touch with nature, we will begin growing our furniture from trees and mushrooms, and as they grow, we'll shape them to our specifications.
You know what? That's not totally untrue, though, because at one point, and I don't know if it's panned out, but they were using different funguses, so mushrooms and stuff, and they can have it grow into a mold, and they were using that for, like, the idea is they were going to use that for, like, car, what is it called? Interior and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of plasticky, but...
Well, that doesn't leave you much room for error, does it?
Wow. Wow. That was a good one. I like that one. Oh, wow. Okay, so we're doing the show.
Okay.
All right.
Welcome to the show, everybody.
Oh, we just got here.
Yes. Just fair warning, I'm drinking a hee-haw. Do you remember what that did to me in the past?
Uh-huh. That's all right. I'm excited then. This will be a good show.
Yep.
Some other her-har.
A little har-har.
Yes, Grawlix Podcast. We're going to be talking about all kinds of things today. We're going to talk about some Green Arrow, like actual Green Arrow. We're going to talk about some Fables. And then, other things as we see fit.
As we wander off.
As we wander off, yeah. So, Jesse, what's new with you? What'd you do this month?
What did I do this month? Well, I went to Planet Comicon in Kansas City. Holly and I, last year we went, and this year we decided to take the whole weekend and experience what a whole weekend was like. Because last year, for Planet 2014, I went down with Axton Kaler, who we've had on the show before, and we just did the Sunday. So we kind of did like a power con experience where we come in and we get in, we do what we got to do, and we get out. So I kind of wanted to see what the whole, like if I spread it out, what's a 3-day pass like? I don't know what that's like. So I wanted to try that out. It wound up being kind of fun because we got an apartment down there in KC, and we were able to go in on Friday when it was not quite so busy, and we got several of our signature seeking moments out of the way, and then we were able to hit different things on different days. So Saturday we were able to hit panels and things like that.
So
nice.
Let's jump on signatures first. Who did you get? Who did you see? Who did you talk to?
Okay, well, I'll start with media guests. The first media guest that we went to was the young Amy Pond.
Okay.
Was it Caitlin something? And I feel bad because I have her signature and I've already forgotten her name. But the young gal that played Amy Pond is a little girl at the very beginning of season 5.
Yeah. When Matt Smith first comes in and fish sticks and custard and all that.
Yes, yeah, that whole scene. Caitlin Blackwood is her name, and so on Friday, there wasn't much for a line to anybody but Michael Rooker. Michael Rooker had a huge line, and so did Carrie Elwes. And I didn't get to meet either of them, but Caitlin's line was really short, so we thought, yeah, let's get her today. And so we did that, and she was very like, she looks like a little Karen Gilliam.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like she's growing into that like a clone. I don't know. It's kind of creepy. But she's really kind of introverted, and so you can imagine putting introvert in the line, and then getting in line to meet the introvert. It was like, hey, nice job with that. You're good. But we did get a photo with her, but you know, it's just like you get that many introverts in a photo, and it's like we all look uncomfortable. So, but she was nice, and the folks at her table were really cool. In fact, I think we saw them out and about like before the con, and they they waved at us. We had a nice little conversation, so it was kind of nice. Then that same day, we got in Scott Wilson's line because his line was relatively short too, and he was doing like not every media guest does photos at the booth at the table. But he was offering it like as an aside. Like sometimes they'll do it, but only if you buy the autograph. Like if you buy the autograph, then for like $10 more, we'll take a photo with you too on your phone, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, okay.
Well, he was offering to go ahead and just take the photo too.
Oh, nice.
Like, it was an option, so we did that, and his he, like things were so relaxed at his table, like his people were like doing something else, and so he interacted with us. Like usually the process is you get in line, you deal with paying for your autograph, and then you go on to the media guest. And in this case, they were talking and goofing around, and so he was like our cashier too. And so he was just really casual and fun, and immediately he's like, well, where's my hug? So Holly was all over that. We've had Dave Bell on a different podcast for the Electronic Media Collective. And they're huge Scott Wilson fans. So like I go in and I just have one thing that I want to say basically to a media guest, because you never know how much time you're going to get with them. And so I was just going to tell him that my friends do this Spaghetti Tuesday in honor of Herschel from The Walking Dead. And that was the only thing I was going to say to him. But Holly gets up there and she just like zones in. She had her game face on. She was like, I am talking to Scott Wilson. And she was like, you made this show easier to take for somebody that doesn't like horror. And she was just like there, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna let her go because it's clearly a cool experience, and I don't want to get in the way of that. But no, it was fun. That was probably the coolest of the media guests that we interacted with, and that was all on Friday. The other media guests that we had to get in line for Karen, we had to meet Amy Pond. That was less awesome, just because the line was huge. We did that on Saturday morning, and that was the first thing we did. Got in line, because that's what you had to do, because her line was crazy around the back of the booths kind of thing. And because it was so long, they had you buy a ticket for the autograph, so that when you got up to, once you got there, all you'd have to do is get up there, hand the ticket off, because you already paid, and then move on. Well, to further streamline the process, they gave us Post-it notes, and if you wanted your autograph personalized, then go ahead and write down on the Post-it note who this is to. So I was like, you just keep streamlining this down to the point where when you get up there, you barely have a conversation with the person at all.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind of a bummer, because planning out in advance what we wanted to do, we were originally thinking about doing the photo op instead, and in this case, we don't have a picture with Amy Pond, because it said right at the table, no pictures, no photos, because they do photo ops through the con kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I was originally just going to do the double Amy Pond photo op, but in their policy, they made it sound like, well, you can't really even have a conversation outside of a polite hello. And and it, it's like I tell the story because there's not much of a story, and people are like, well, wow, they're really like too big for their britches or something. No, she was delightful. She was very friendly as you could be for 5 seconds. It really basically was, hi, who are you? Awesome. Thanks for coming, you kind of thing. And I have red hair, so she was like, yeah, ginger power. And that was that. That was it. I was like, I should have just gone with the photo op, because for it was like an autograph was $60. For $80, you could take one photo with both of the pawns and have like up to 4 people in it.
Oh, really?
So it's like, and I think I would have got the same level of conversation out of it. Like hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's still cool. She was very friendly. It just was, there's an enormous line behind us. So, get your autograph, say hi, have your moment, and that's all you get.
Yeah, I mean, that is a bummer, but I imagine like she's a huge draw. So
yeah.
Like,
I don't know why.
She was probably the big name of Saturday because she was only there Saturday, Sunday.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it sucks that they streamline the life out of it, but otherwise I doubt they'd be able to get through everybody if.
Oh, it was an enormous line. The other thing that was kind of a bummer is they incorporated a VIP system.
Oh.
And that was the only time where I saw any merit to it at all. Is if you were in the VIP line, as long as there was somebody in the VIP line, the regular line didn't move. So if you had bought a VIP 3-day pass, then you just got in the speed lane to get your autograph.
Oh.
And it's like, oh, now I'm seeing why people will pay that kind of money, but I kind of, I don't like it. I do like it. I see why I would think about doing it, but it kind of changes the game in a way that I don't like. So those are the media guests. The creators, that was kind of cool because we got to meet Stan Sakai, who is the creator of Usagi Yojimbo, the samurai rabbit, who also features in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He does a few crossovers in that.
Oh, nice.
And he was super cool. And he was signing, that's what's so bizarre is media guests play a part, and then yet the creators, they'll charge you nothing, and they invented said part. And so it's kind of mind-boggling. Like he wasn't charging anything, so we were buying things from him just because. It's like, you are a living legend, and you're not charging anything, and the only money you're taking outside of that is donating to a charity. So, yeah, how can we not donate to your charity? I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
And real quick, just to wrap this up, because I don't want to overdo the podcast with this stuff, but one of the coolest moments I think that applies to us here at Grawlix Podcast is I got to walk around in Artist Alley and meet the folks at Cannons in the Clouds. Well, I got to meet them, and they were super cool. And it's either they just had their table faces on, or they were genuinely excited to meet me. And they were super appreciative of the fact that we did a review for them, and I took your advice. I introduced myself as the guy that has nightmares about flying fish now, and that was cool. And they were pretty excited and animated.
Oh, great! Yeah,
explained who I was. I gave him one of our Grawlix cards and told him, if you're interested in being on Grawlix Nights, look us up. So maybe that'll be in the future.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I was excited when you were messaging me about that. And yeah, they had commented back on our post on the episode that we talked about, and they'd mentioned apparently they were amused by the flying fish nightmares. the Mario Flying Fish Nightmare comment. So I was hoping that would stick with them.
Yeah, it must have. Yeah, they knew. And I guess they're already up to issue 4 or 5.
Yeah. No, I think so. I think 4 came out this past month.
Yeah, I think that's what they were saying, is that 4 is out and 5 is coming. So they didn't have anything to sell either. They were just kind of there to, get exposure and promote the books, and so that was pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah, we wanted to be there, but my work schedule did not permit it.
Yeah. Stinky.
It's quite a drive too. I mean, that's one of the other reasons where I was like, if it's gonna be a 3-hour thing, both ways, then it'd be kind of nice to actually stay and be able to enjoy it, even if we didn't go all 3 days, which we did wind up doing. By day 3, I was kind of like, do we have to go back in? But Stephen Amell was there, and we thought, well, it would be fun to catch a glimpse of him or something. But he was in a panel at the time we finally got there, so we didn't actually get to see Arrow.
Arrow.
Yeah.
That's my segue tone.
Segue tone. We should have like a sound for the segue, like the sound of a segue rolling by, like.
Yeah, we did see.
That was a little too much airplane, not enough segue right there.
Yeah, good point.
If your segue sounds like an airplane, you might need to get the wheels checked.
I think we're an episode behind on Arrow currently. 2 episodes by the time this comes out, but
did you see Flash?
Yes,
because Flash was rad.
Yes, we did see Flash, and
it all went down the way that we all thought it would. So
yeah. Flash played out like we expected. Like I said, by the time this episode goes out, there'll probably be another Flash episode out.
Yeah.
So we're talking about, what was the name of it? I don't remember the name.
Was that Rogue Time, and then the one before it was something else? But Rogue Time was the current episode.
Yeah. With once again, was it Captain Cold?
Yep.
Captain Cold and the other one. Fire guy.
Yeah. And now his sister, the Captain Cold sister's
Gold finger.
Is that what it is?
No, it's not. That's a James Bond thing. But yeah, she had a gold gun.
Yeah.
They did some cool things this episode, playing on the events that happened in the previous episode.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I was like, I understand why they did it, but so Barry and Captain Cold come to an agreement at the end.
Yeah, that was a little bit clunky.
Oh, yeah.
That was the only part where I was like, wow, you're really just trying to wrap this episode up, huh?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I didn't understand. I didn't buy it. Like, why would Captain Cold be like, okay, it's all good. I know who you are, but yeah, I promise I won't kill anybody. And Barry's like, just don't kill anybody. You can rob everything you want. And it just was.
I'm going to let you go, but you're going to have to walk back to town.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he is a murderer.
And we have this conversation quite a bit. Barry is the fastest man alive. There's no reason for him to negotiate with anybody. He could go and run and find them all, and whoever, things like evidence they have, before he could let them know that he had been captured.
Yeah.
Even. I don't understand why he feels the need to negotiate with anyone. Or especially that one time when somebody had a hostage. And I'm like, so go grab her. Or him. I mean, it was him, right?
I don't recall, but sure.
So whatever. They had a hostage. I'm like, so go run, grab the hostage, and then they have no leverage over you. And then bam, you're done.
Yeah, I enjoy the show, but I think the writers, and they do it to keep the show going, but I think the writers really struggle with the idea of the Flash has this kind of power, but their story demands that he not use it.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's the same thing with like Superman. You have to make him be stupid and not do everything that he could do because otherwise there'd be no story.
I just think the comics handle it a bit better.
Yeah.
Because it feels like comic book readers are, what's the word? They will pick apart a comic book to ridiculous.
Pedantic.
Thank you.
You're looking for.
Exactly. So it feels like comic book writers have to work a little harder to avoid their plots getting pulled apart, even though comic book plots can be pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
But for example, in this last episode of The Flash, where they're in the casino or whatever that was, and I think that's where there was a hostage. At the end, the scene ends with Captain Cold and his sister just like leisurely turning their back on Flash and strolling out, guns dangling from their hands, and Barry just stands there and watches them leave. And it's like, you're the Flash, their back is turned towards you, they're just strolling out like it's a Sunday morning.
Grab the guns and go.
It's done. Story over. But that's the problem, is it would be story over.
Yeah.
But
and I think overall they're doing Captain Cold really well. Like that interaction isn't the problem that I have with that scene. It's just how kind of clunky it is, because Captain Cold is one of those characters that Barry could potentially rationalize with. I mean, like, he's not so far gone. He's one of those intellectual baddies that can kind of dip either way if it suits him. And so I think that they could have done it. They just didn't do it well.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And I don't know, maybe it's trying to make the TV characters like the comic book characters more, but I hate the way that they deliver their lines. Both the
bad guys?
Yeah, both of them.
They not all the villains in the show, but Captain Cold and what is the fire guy's name?
I should know this. I keep thinking that he's Firebug, but Firebug is a Batman guy.
Oh. They go over the top villain, like old school villain, like they just, the way they deliver their
old Batman
lines.
Villain.
Yeah, I mean it's like old time film villain. Like they really like lay it on thick.
Yeah.
A vaudeville, old timey, twirl the mustache, snidely whiplash kind of stuff.
I mean, a little bit. No, I mean, obviously,
if they had mustaches, I think they might.
Yeah. And I think I don't know which one is worse about it, but yeah, they're over the top, which is okay, but it's kind of weird because not all the villains are over the top. Some of them are pretty natural, I guess. And then it's like when it comes to those two, the director or whoever is like, "You're a villain. You're just a bad guy." And when you talk, you want people to know it,
Yeah.
But it's still fun.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Okay,
I
his
find
name is Heatwave.
Heatwave. That's it. Yeah.
But I can't take him seriously because I just want to laugh at him the whole time.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's that.
Yeah.
I also like the fur-lined hood because it's the straight up callback, but it looks so ridiculous in person.
Yeah, I thought about that. I think the scene where they're robbing the casino, he strolls in with it, and everybody else is dressed normally. It looks like it's probably summertime. And he's always rolling around in this winter coat with the fur-lined hood. But I kind of like it. It is ridiculous, but it's...
Especially when you consider that he doesn't actually have any powers, he just has a gun, so he's probably not cold.
No, he's probably not. He's probably sweating all the time, but that's why he's got the cold gun.
Yeah.
Keep himself cool.
Except he has no, sweat glands, so he's like, no sweat. we need to amp up the vaudevillian cheese. Let's just go even further. No sweat.
No sweat. No mustache, though.
No, come on. Let's not go crazy.
Another thing, I don't know we were debating about when Barry told
Who?
the guy that's the Reverse Flash, but his name in the show.
Harrison Wells.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. When he told Harrison Wells, what was going on, how much he told him, because
In regards to what the reporter knew?
well, yeah, that specifically, but and just the everything that had happened. If he told him like every single thing, because there was stuff like he knew about the reporter and that he was going to go ahead with that story like in a couple days and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know that he told him that, or at least we didn't get to see him tell him that.
Yeah, that's one thing, because it doesn't totally make sense that he knew the reporter was going to run a story and hence knew to go after the reporter, because how the events went down the second version of the day, or this last episode, the reporter doesn't really go to anybody.
No.
Doesn't get a chance to talk to anybody about it. The Flash knows what the Flash knows from living the day out before. But yeah, we didn't get to see the Flash tell Wells any of that. So we were kind of questioning whether Wells would know to go after the reporter.
And killing him was a stupid idea also. I think he should have just gone and tried to find out where the evidence was and destroy that, because then the evidence would have been gone. He couldn't have run the story, and people wouldn't be suspicious of him for that guy dying right after he found out there was going to be a story running or whatever.
One of the things that I thought was interesting between the two versions too was this is huge spoiler territory. The part where Cisco figures out about Thrawn. I always get it wrong. Figured him out, and it was like everybody in that past life or that past day, that first version, everybody else kind of knew at the end about the Reverse Flash. Like everybody knew, but Barry. Barry was the only one that was like, I don't have time for this. I gotta go. And then in this version, it was the flip flop, where no one else has any clue, and at the end we find out that Barry does.
Barry's, he's suspicious. I do also like the symmetry between the two episodes, where we get the scene with Wells and Cisco with that big device that they used to capture the Reverse Flash before.
Yeah.
And the speech that Wells even gives him is very similar. He hits a lot of the same points, but on day number 1, he ends up, again, huge spoilers, but killing Cisco. But on the second take, it's much more like father-son bonding moment, even though the dialogue's not that different.
And actually, I was going to say, I really like that they did that, because he's like, in the first version, I think he even said, I would have liked to have told you this under different circumstances.
Yeah.
And then in the second version, he did.
In the second version, it was a nice bonding scene instead of a murder. A murder.
He really likes the vibration judo chop.
He does, doesn't he?
It's like his new killing method of choice. It's like, boom, you're done.
That is fun, though, because it introduces, at least to viewers that don't know about, all the Flash's possible powers, the idea that they can, vibrate through stuff. Because I'm really hoping someday they get it to where Barry can, vibrate through walls and such.
Yeah.
Phase. I don't know what they would call it.
That's a huge trick that he uses too. Because that's the ironic thing about Barry is he's constantly late for things. So half the time he's using that I can phase through the wall to get into my apartment kind of thing.
Oh yeah,
before somebody realizes that I wasn't in there. So
I really want to read more Flash. I just haven't got the chance yet. Well, it's not that I haven't got the chance, but I haven't taken the chance to read more.
Well, and that's kind of a good segue. I mean, not to cut you off, but that's a good segue into why we read Green Arrow. Was kind of to get a little bit of Green Arrow, since we talk about Arrow so often.
So since we so often find ourselves talking about Arrow or the Flash, CW shows, Jesse suggested we should read some Green Arrow or some Flash, and I think we opted for Green Arrow because, well, I personally supported the Green Arrow idea because, like I said, I want to read Flash eventually, but that's definitely also something I'll get to on my own. The Green Arrow, on the other hand, I don't know that I would get to it anytime soon. So I was like, yeah, let's do that. And I mean, obviously, there's a lot of differences between any of the comic books and any of the comic book shows, but between the Flash and Green Arrow, the tone of Arrow seems to deviate quite a bit more from the comic books than the tone of the Flash.
Yeah. And that's kind of been my problem with the show a little bit. Not that it's a real problem, but it's jarring.
And in general, I'm more familiar with the Flash in comics. So I was all for a nice introduction to some Green Arrow proper.
Yeah, me too. And I haven't really read any Arrow before. Green Arrow, I'm sorry. Even maybe he's been in a few things that I've read, but he hasn't even really like come into books that I've read. But I already knew that the show had much less humor, I should say.
Oh yeah.
Than the comic, because it always struck me that the Green Arrow had a lot of humor in it, and the show does not so much.
Yeah, when he shows up in. Yeah, that'd be our exposure to him, is when he shows up during big events, crossover events, or just stories that involve more like Justice League members and stuff like that. The Green Arrow always has a sense of humor. Yeah. And then also his whole Robin Hood thing, which they don't play on at all in the show. His anti-rich, anti-corporation thing.
Talking about fat cats or something?
Yeah.
He's got quite a bit of swagger too. I mean, like, he's pretty cocky.
So we read, at Jesse's suggestion, and it was a good suggestion, we read the Quiver storyline, which was written by Kevin Smith, art by Phil Hester, and this is it's basically issues 1 through 10 of Green Arrow Volume 3.
It's also it comes after the fact, after I believe it's 0 Hour, that whole event where it was one of those cataclysmic events, and in that whole storyline, you basically lose Oliver Queen. Oliver Queen dies, and you've got Roy Harper as Arsenal still doing his thing. You've got Black Canary doing her thing, and then you've got Connor as the Green Arrow in his absence, and this is how they kind of bring Oliver Queen back.
Yeah, and before we get into it, as with pretty much anything we talk about, big spoilers. I imagine we're just going to spoil the crap out of this whole thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So this is totally the resurrection of Oliver Queen, Green Arrow.
It's kind of a crazy train. It goes all over the place.
It does.
It does. I like that I didn't know anything about it when I started reading it, because I think I enjoyed it. I got to enjoy it more. Like when he first comes back or whatever, and he's talking to somebody about their cell phone. He's like, "Oh, you have one of those newfangled technologies like Batman and blah blah blah," and I'm like, what is this guy talking about? And I'm like, how old is this supposed to be? And then before it outright said it took me a while to figure it out. And then it said it, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, that actually threw me, because he made a big deal about one of the guys he goes after has a cell phone, and I was like, how old was this?
Yeah.
And I looked at it, and it's 2002 or something, and I was like, cell phones weren't that obscure in 2002. But then it turns out it's because essentially Oliver Queen's missing a decade of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that was interesting. To piggyback what you were just saying about not really knowing a lot about Oliver Queen, or to a further point, a lot of the DC Universe events at that time, is definitely one of my very large blind spots. Reading through this, it fills you in and references a lot of different happenings and events, and then it also asterisks each one. Kevin Smith kind of gets to you can tell he comes at it with a lot of knowledge about stuff, and he pulls a lot of references to events, DC events and different characters, in a way that, as a new reader, wasn't intimidating like some books will be. It did well at like mentioning these things and also like kind of filling you in at the same time without feeling too what's the word, expository.
Yeah. Well, and he does a really nice. This, I think, it's one of his early comic book writing gigs. I think he had just come off of writing Daredevil, or vice versa. I don't remember which one came first. If Green Arrow came first or Daredevil came first. But this is somewhere in those early days. But he does a really nice job, and I think he always has done a really nice job of getting the characters, because even though he gets expository, he only pulls the events that make the most sense for these characters. Like the way that he brings back Oliver Queen is very much related to the relationship that Hal Jordan and Oliver Queen have. And if that relationship wasn't there, then this story wouldn't work. Yeah. The way that it does. I mean, because it's kind of out of left field. It's a pretty big leap. Yeah. But he gets that relationship so well that it works.
Well, speaking of Kevin Smith writing this, I didn't find it was too heavy on Kevin Smith-isms. They were definitely there. Some of the gay jokes with I can't remember the older guy that Oliver Queen's staying with.
Oh yeah,
they're not outrageous, but they did feel a little. I was a little like surprised by them. They felt a little out of place, I guess. But if you know Kevin Smith's humor, it's actually pretty toned down for the kind of stuff he usually likes to talk about and joke about.
Yeah, I think he kind of reserved hisness to like secondary characters.
It's there, but it's not like any of the comics I've read of his I've enjoyed. But for example, what's the not the Widening Gyre? What's the other one? The other Batman.
Cacophony? Or that's all the same thing, isn't it?
Oh, is it? I think it's Cacophony. No, I think it's Cacophony. He writes the Joker in a way that's a little too Kevin Smith. Like the Joker makes some like pretty lewd jokes and stuff that felt really out of place. I thought. I mean, overall, I enjoyed that story, but I think sometime he talks about a merkin and all this, and that just doesn't really. To me, it didn't feel right. It felt a little too out of place. In this case, like I said, there's a little bit of the Kevin Smith-isms, but it's not too heavy. So I didn't.
So he did a good job.
He did a good job.
Way to reel it in there, Kevin.
I like the way he led into this is going to happen. Can you, and this is a clue to help you figure it out before you get there. Like that, the guy that he was staying with, the older guy, I figured out that he was
something
maybe not
suspicious.
Such a good guy. Before it revealed it, and I like that. It makes me feel happy when I can guess what's going on.
What's coming next.
Yeah.
The narration was interesting. Sometimes it was really well, and then there's the narration definitely does get kind of quirky at times. Like that part where it suddenly you follow the older guy for a little bit until the narration's but that's something for later in the story.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's I guess that might be. I don't really lump that in as a Kevin Smith-ism because that's not necessarily something I've noticed of his other writing, but it's definitely unusual. It's kind of amusing, and at the same time, it kind of takes me out a little bit in certain parts. It's kind of like the narration just kind of starts to wander, just well, everybody's done doing their thing for now, so we're just going to kind of wander over here and talk about this random guy on the street type thing. I don't know. It doesn't do that too much, but there's a couple parts where I was like, where is this going? What's going on?
And I'm curious. I'm not they don't need to write a book about it or anything, but I'm curious. what happened when he first came back? Because he was like living as a homeless person. So, what was he thinking? It's just, bam, I'm here and I'm a homeless person. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, why he was just like...
why didn't he try to go home or...
Well, I think they might have talked about that a little bit. I don't think he realized that he had lost all of his estate. But also, he seemed like he didn't want anything to do with the estate and his money and such.
Yeah, but come on.
Well, I'm just saying, you're asking about the character motivations, and I think he says something about that at one point.
Yeah.
They kind of implied that he was repressing all of that because of the state of things. Mm-hmm. And for folks that we're kind of jumping around, the first time that we get to see Oliver Queen in the book is when we see him basically save Stanley in this alley from some thugs, and he's all homelessed out, and he's got his trick arrows, but they're like a bleach bottle on an arrow kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so it becomes clear right off the bat that there's something up with this Oliver Queen that we initially get.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate the bleach arrow, the bleach jug
arrow, yeah,
because I noticed it and I was like, that's obviously that's a makeshift thing, but why bleach? And Stanley was his name, yeah.
Yeah.
He even questions him a little bit later. And he's like, the boxing glove arrow,
Yeah. I love how that always comes into play.
Yep. The amnesia or the missing a decade is convenient for a story like this, but it still does a pretty good job about keeping it a mystery. Like, reading through it, you don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, in the earlier several, like, half the arc, if you guessed exactly... what's going on, that'd be pretty incredible, because it really does take some leaps at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse, you have more I think you're more familiar with Oliver Queen. How was this iteration, I guess Kevin Smith's iteration of the character versus some of the other comic book iterations?
Well, it was a little bit of a throwback because, and they even kind of mentioned that it's funny because Kevin Smith takes it back to that time and the 90s. I mean, that's basically what we're talking about is bringing Oliver Queen back to the 90s version of Oliver Queen. So he references all those ridiculous things that happened in the 90s. Like he starts calling out, he calls out the new kids when he kind of reconnects with the JLA, and he's like, he's pointing out Kyle Rayner as Green Lantern and wanting to know what's up with that, and he's getting to experience Arthur Curry as Aquaman in that current incarnation where he's got the long hair, the beard, and the missing hand, and all of these things that were happening in the 90s, like Guy Gardner. I mean, like, he references those things, and I think that was kind of fun. And that also made it less jarring that this Oliver Queen was a little different than the Oliver Queen that we were used to. And that's all kind of reconciled pretty well at the end. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, it was a little more over the top than the Oliver Queen we had seen before that. And it's funny because at one point he gets to see an image of himself like right before he quote unquote died. Mm-hmm. And he's like, and it's funny. I thought that was funny. It made it kind of timeless because he's got that green hood that he basically is wearing in the show now. Is, kind of the green hood look to him, except he still has the goatee and whatnot. And I thought that was pretty funny because it still applies. He's like, come on. Anybody, you can Photoshop or you can manipulate any kind of photograph, and why would I ever wear anything like that?
Yeah,
kind of thing, even though it was the newer, more modern costume.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they definitely had some fun with him being out of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
pulled from his time, fish out of water style.
And I mean, it takes a while to get to it, but when they do, he seems like he takes it all really well for all the crazy stuff that they're like, you're dead and your son is, which he doesn't, I don't think he even knows he has a son, is taking your place, and you did all these mean things and whatnot, and he just kind of like, he takes it all very well for getting so much information all at once.
Mm-hmm. I think in terms of writing, I think how everyone else reacts to him being there and being alive, I think it was handled really well. Uh-huh. Where he gets taken to the watch, is it called the Watchtower?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I should know that, and how the Justice League as a whole reacts to him.
Yeah.
At the same time, you get him reacting to them like, well, like Jesse mentioned, who's this guy? What's going on here? Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
That whole scene was very interesting. Uh-huh. It was kind of fun, but also like I liked each of the characters' reaction to him was very very well handled.
I liked it also, and of course I know Batman the best because that's all that I've read really. But I loved his thing where he was like skulking in from the shadows somewhere and wanted like trying to take him away and experiment on him, which he did. But I'm like, that's so Batman. I love it.
There was so Oliver ends up getting pretty upset at the Watchtower, and then towards the end of all that, Batman knocks him out, right? Was it Batman that knocks him out?
Yeah.
Batman knocks him out, takes him to the Batcave, and then starts performing all kinds of tests to the point where was it Stephanie Brown that was there?
Yeah, spoiler. Yeah.
She's like, don't you usually perform an autopsy on someone who's already dead or something like that? And then that sets up, fun jokes like, well, Oliver Queen is dead, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But it really does play on kind of like, you understand why Batman would do that, but it does play well on Batman's really extreme and kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And not like he doesn't care about socially how something should be handled.
Yeah.
If it means, if he's worried there's a threat.
Surprisingly, I've always liked how Kevin Smith writes Batman. And usually when I think about like Batman versus how Kevin Smith does dialogue, I wouldn't think that those two would mesh. And maybe I've said this on the podcast before, but he does a really good job of capturing it. Like, he just kind of goes, I don't know if he goes silent Bob mode on it or what, but he just really pares down the dialogue and makes it kind of to the point. One of my favorite parts with that whole abduction scenario is where Kyle and Wally are back there, and Wally's like, $10 says he's been hiding in the shadows for the last hour just so he could come up with put down that classy, and Batman's like, and for the record, I just came up with that on the fly.
Oh yeah. No,
while he's carrying him off.
That part was really good. I criticized kind of how Kevin Smith had wrote the Joker a little bit earlier, but I will agree with you. He nails Batman very well, and there's still a lot of humor injected into stuff with Batman, but some of it comes from Batman. Like in that case, I guess it's a little bit of poking fun at Batman, but he does well at pulling humor out of Batman interacting with others.
I'd like to call it Mike drop Batman. He just drops the mic, walks off with an Oliver Queen.
Yeah. There's one part that I thought was great where Oliver Queen asks about, the Arrow car and the Arrow Cave. And Batman's like, did you ever have an original idea? I loved that bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's just like acknowledgement. It's like, yeah, you stole all your ideas from me, which is not completely untrue in terms of like Green Arrow as a character. Obviously inspired by Batman in terms of setup and stuff.
And it starts to get into that like supernatural, almost Swamp Thing territory.
Yeah.
That's where we start to find out what's really going on with Oliver Queen and why he's got this 10-year gap kind of thing.
This does get into Swamp Thing territory in that we have Etrigan. This The story hit a lot of things that I really enjoy. So reading through it, I was enjoying it quite a bit because we get Etrigan, and jumping forward even further, we get Deadman.
Yeah.
And then we get Etrigan possessed by Deadman, and I love that bit.
When this all kind of happens at the same time, like Jason Blood and Etrigan, and they start to explain what's going on with the fact that the Oliver Queen that we have is hollow. Mm-hmm. He's Oliver Queen, but his soul isn't intact. And that's where we get pulled into, the land of the undead, or the unliving. I don't know how you term that, the afterlife. And that's where we get to deal with Hal Jordan, who is also dead, kind of as a result of the huge events that were kind of boom, 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 that caused Oliver Queen, Green Arrow, all these characters to kind of die out. Before this story took place. And you get to see Hal Jordan in his role as the Spectre for a little while.
Which was very interesting to me.
Yeah, me too. I was going to say that was a surprise to me, and I was like, really? Wow. I love that they call him a hollow. That's great. And it made the title make sense to me too. I think he mentions it somewhere in there. He's not the arrow, he's the quiver.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
The empty shell is great.
I'm flipping through it, and the reason that it's kind of clunky to review at this point is that this stuff literally all happens at once. Batman abducts Oliver Queen and takes him back to the Batcave, runs all the tests. They do a little recon mission as the Brave and Bold. They do that whole thing, and that leads, on their way there, they run into Roy and Dinah, and have a little kind of reunion for a second. Batman's trying to expose Oliver to all these things, and that's when they come in contact with Etrigan. It all happens like that. It's boom, 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 and then Etrigan. Etrigan just wants to destroy him, because that's what Etrigan kind of does. Is I have to do this. It's for your own good. Yeah. But then Jason Blood, he's willing to investigate it a little bit further and a lot less hot-headed way. And in that whole interchange where it looks like he's going to be destroyed, that's where Hal Jordan plucks him.
Yep.
Plucks him out of the action, brings him to the afterlife, and that's where we finally start to get some answers while he's there.
Yeah, we learn that he is a hollow, and essentially that is a body with no soul, and Etrigan, for the benefit of Earth really, is trying to destroy him because that is essentially a body that's open to be possessed or taken over by some other demon who could use it and wreak havoc on Earth. So, Etrigan is not necessarily... you don't want him to kill Oliver Queen, but he's not necessarily coming at it as a straight-up villain. And when Jason Blood is like, okay, yeah, you're a hollow, even Jason Blood's like, lock the door, all right, yep, we're going to have to kill you.
I'm always interested in the comic book versions of the afterlife.
We get a lot of... how this came about. It's essentially it's Hal Jordan's doing. We basically end up in heaven, where, and this is really jumping into it, where and we come across a stranger, because Etrigan, Deadman, and the Stranger, and Spectre, if you're going into the afterlife in DC Comics, those are the characters that you have to see.
Yes.
So I was super jazzed about that, because some of my favorite Swamp Thing is when he's rolling around with that lot,
Yeah.
But yeah, so we get this hollow Oliver Queen meeting up with the more modern but dead Oliver Queen in heaven. The heaven stuff would really I don't know what the difference is. Maybe it's just because hell looks cooler. I don't ever question it when they go to hell. All the Swamp Thing stuff, I love that stuff. the heaven stuff would really, it would not set well with me if I hadn't already, like, there's definitely precedent for it.
Yeah.
There's heaven. I've read other DC comic stuff where they go to heaven. In the New 52, there was a storyline where Batman and a whole bunch of them are rolling around in heaven looking for somebody. I don't remember who. So I've read stories about it. Just seems it's such a strange thing that there's this established heaven in the DC universe, and that apparently it's not all that hard for characters just to wander up there and talk to dead people. It's just so weird to me.
Well, and I think it's kind of a risk to even include a heaven, because like they run into Barry up there, because this is all post Crisis on Infinite Earths, so we all just assume Barry is dead at the end of Crisis, that he sacrificed himself to save everybody, and then that's when we get Wally in the suit and all that. So Barry's in heaven. Well, fast forward, before New 52 even, you get Barry Allen coming back, and he was never really dead. So it's kind of like, well, okay, we have to retcon things, because
that's definitely.
And Jason Todd's up there. You're like, hey, there goes one of the Robins.
Yeah.
Wow, there's only one that ever died. So.
Well, maybe it's like, heaven doesn't have the same time frames we do. You can just wander around.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. There you go, yeah. But they clearly had, Gandhi. I don't know who Gandhi was talking to in that panel, but it was Gandhi and somebody.
Oh, yeah. It's either kind of make or break if you're going to buy that. That's how they brought Oliver back. But I don't know. It's
it was just Hal was sad that it was his fault that he died, so he wanted to bring him back to life.
Yeah,
basically was the situation.
But the soul of Oliver Queen didn't want to return.
And I think it was odd that they were like, but let's bring him back like 10 years ago so that he doesn't have the memories of all the bad times.
Well, yeah, that's what it was, and that I believe wasn't that the
that was actually Ollie's call.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I mean, why would you want to do that to yourself, basically?
Well, I understand the thought process there, but he would have had to anticipate that it was going to cause all kinds of problems, like it did.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not like he's not going to run into Black Canary. And his son at some point in time.
Yeah.
We haven't even mentioned this subplot with this child abductor, child murderer thing going on that turns out to be Stanley, because he was trying to he's a Satanist or some such, and he's trying to conjure this demon that has attached itself to Stanley's grandchild, and this really wild, because it starts off and these like child abductions is kind of like, it's part of the story for maybe an issue or two, and then it's dropped until almost the very end when it's brought back up, and it's like, oh, surprise, it's Stanley. I liked that demon.
His grandson's demon?
Yeah,
me too.
But that was really bizarre.
Yeah, a lot of the when it went back and explained like Stanley's involvement with the occult or whatever, that seemed more Kevin Smithy to me. A lot of that.
Yeah.
When he's talking about the like orgies and whatever, and
oh sure,
and
Kevin Smith and he's mentioned it before. He's a little bit older, but he's from the generation where, what was it, the late 70s maybe, where satanic cults were like a legitimate worry that people in America had. I've heard him mention that before, so that's what popped into my mind when I got to that section. I was like, okay, yeah, I could see, this is definitely something that obviously he wrote it, he brought it all to it, but this is definitely something he's bringing to this.
And I really appreciated it, because the other main DC thing that I've read is Sandman, and they tie him in with this also through that, through Stanley's occult activities. There's that point, I think it might be the point at which he decided to try to like capture a demon or whatever, where he sees him while he's locked in the little bubble on Earth.
Oh, I didn't catch that. I caught the Jason Blood moment, but...
No, it's when Stanley's, he's like going to Europe and looking for information or whatever, and then he goes to someone's party, and in the basement there's a creature or whatever locked in a...
It's like a jar. It's kind of like what he has his grandson.
Oh, yes,
locked in.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, never mind. Now I see what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, and that's Sandman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have known that.
Right. Well, now you do.
But that's another cool little piece of DC that he ties into it.
Yeah.
I like that's they have the couple that comes in and they've got this mullet. Or is it? I guess it's his son. When his daughter comes in.
Yeah.
That's right. Get the crazy mullet going on and the mustache.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's his son-in-law, right?
I think so.
Her husband or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where we kind of get to this kiddo, and he's like doing that. I mean, that's how the demon comes into play, is that he's doing all these rituals with the grandson in his arms, basically, so it attaches to him.
Yeah, how weird is that? Babysitting while, trying to raise demons.
Conjure this demon.
And up to that point, he was really a pretty good babysitter.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
All adventures in babysitting. The Demon Chronicles.
That's really such a strange subplot because, I mean, it ties into, the whole Oliver Queen thing. Like, he recognizes that, Oliver Queen is a husk, so he can transfer his self to the Oliver Queen hollow. A hollow is what they call it, not husk. Same difference.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's totally its own little thing. Like, it's kind of sets up... I guess it serves a couple purposes. Somebody to basically house Oliver Queen while he's in his amnesia mode, so to speak. And then also provide this, like, climax at the end.
Yeah.
They end up fighting, a bunch of demons, right? At the end? Down there? And his son ends up showing up.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of abducted, and I don't remember why. I don't remember why Speedy's down there, or Mia. I think she becomes Speedy.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, that's jumping ahead into the next story arc or whatever. But he's got them all down there. I think she is she's not just collateral damage, but she's something. She was part of the ritual.
She was staying there.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, the only reason he's got her locked up down there is so that he can take bodily pleasures. That's such a weird way to put it.
So he can violate her.
So he can violate her once he gets this healthy young body of Ollie's. It really is just skeevy old guy is the only reason.
Yeah.
I'm going to trim that down to that. It really is just skeevy old guy.
Yeah.
If I remember right. I don't think she had any larger part in the ritual other than, a snack.
Yeah.
For later. Yeah, and there's this weird thing where there's some type of protection
around the house,
and only somebody with the same DNA can enter.
Yeah, someone with Ollie's blood,
which is
why Connor can get in and nobody else can.
Yeah, yeah. Which I guess I didn't really think about it at the time. That's kind of funky writing.
Just scanning through it, the boxing glove arrow comes up again, in that very last moment where he's like, "Oh dear Lord, we meet again. If the kid sees this, he's never going to let me live it down."
Oh yeah,
he uses that boxing glove arrow to do the final KO.
Him and Connor?
Connor, yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose are fighting these demons, but they're losing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I believe it's Hal finally convinces the old Ollie to take over the body, come back and live, so that his son doesn't die and his body isn't taken over by these demons.
Typical Kevin Smith moment, when it all kind of resolves itself, like the big battle is kind of over. Of course, he's got to throw in this. Well, that was exciting. My nipples are all kind of hard.
Oh yeah, no, exactly.
Like, that was one of those moments where I'm like, okay, Kevin, I don't understand that one.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. He can't help himself. He's got an extremely filthy sense of humor, and it does find its way into here. The last line, he does the super cheesy, okay, so everything's resolved and they're going to walk out. He does the super cheesy, this seems like the beginning of a wonderful, what's that line? That old cheesy.
Beautiful friendship.
Yeah. I was like, oh, come on. But, so I binged through this. I read all these in one evening.
Oh, me too.
Yeah? And I will say, I mean, I enjoyed it at the time, and there's a lot of stuff in it I liked, a lot of characters I liked, a lot of fun interaction. The mystery had me going, like, what's going on? How's this, how is this going to resolve itself all the way through it? You get to the end, and you're like, didn't see that coming, but I don't think I could see that coming.
Right.
Except for Stanley. I seen that coming.
Yeah.
Overall, it was really enjoyable, and it's one of those stories where when I thought back to it later, it felt like, and I know I ridiculed that last super cheesy line, but that's kind of part of it. It felt like a movie. Like, it felt like a complete, like, you got the setup, and then there's all this. It felt like a 3-act story-structured movie.
Yeah.
And it kind of worked really well in that respect.
And the fact that it's actually like 10 episodes long or 10 issues long, I think that probably helped it be more like a movie than what we're used to anymore is 6 or less.
Oh, yeah, it's 4 to 6, and that way they can break it up into trade paperbacks. So, yeah, having the longer storyline, and it's all one cohesive storyline, definitely adds to that feel. And that's, like, thinking back to it, that's part of, I think, what I really enjoyed about it is the story structure and the pacing. It was pretty well paced as well. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I was definitely glad that you suggested it, Jesse.
Well, I enjoyed the reread. I mean, I read this. I don't know. I wouldn't say that I read it in the 90s, but it didn't come out in the 90s.
It was like super early 2000s, like 2002 or something.
But I read it I read it years after the fact anyhow. I mean, like, maybe 2-3 years after it was already out and stuff, and it was like, oh, okay, well, I should probably see how they brought Green Arrow back, since I had read I had read all the events where Coast City's destroyed and Parallax, where Hal Jordan goes crazy because Parallax is the yellow flaw in the ring, and it's taking control of his mind, and then his redemption. And so, yeah, when I heard that this was a Kevin Smith after reading the Daredevil run, I was like, yeah, I think I want to see how he did that, because I kept hearing things about it.
I enjoyed it quite a bit. I liked it. I thought it was good. I don't read a lot of other DC comics, so it's nice to get a friendly introduction to some of the history. And the story was really good.
Was it a good jumping on point, do you think, or do you think it was maybe too convoluted? Would we recommend it as a jumping on point for people that are curious about old Green Arrow?
I would definitely recommend it as a jumping on point, because that's one of the things I was so impressed in. It does reference a lot of different events in DC Comics, as well as dealing with a lot of the current, like Hal Jordan being the Spectre at that point. It ties a lot of that in, but at the same time, not having that knowledge going into this book, I didn't feel lost or overwhelmed. It really, I think he did a very good job at bringing that stuff in, but also explaining it and making it not necessarily feel like you're missing something. Right. So yeah, I would definitely suggest it as a jumping on point. for a new reader or a reader that's unfamiliar with that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, yeah.
I agree.
Most of my knowledge is New 52, and who knows what's going to happen with that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Once it's all converged and whatnot.
And that's always a worry I have, because I know there's a lot of older stories that I would like to, and I should go back and read. But it's always a concern as to, like, well, am I going to hit one that is good at filling me in, or am I going to hit one of those, like, weird tie-in events that just leaves me confused? So this definitely is a good jumping on point. Oh, and sorry, to jump back real quick, because there was something that popped in my mind. The girl, I can't remember her name offhand.
Mia Drearden, is that right?
Yeah, and he comes across... Oliver Queen comes across her fairly early in a bad situation and helps her out and all this and that. So she goes back to her boyfriend, Pimp. Mm-hmm. And at first she's, like, she's obviously in that, like, I don't want to say stereotypical, but it kind of is. That cliche, and it's cliche for a reason, but that cliche, like, he's like, well, I'm the only one who cares about you, and blah, blah, blah. This, like, bad, relationship type thing. But when he decides to attack her, she suddenly becomes super awesome and beats the crap out of this guy and cuts his hand. And I don't know, Melanie and I were talking about how that was kind of odd, to where at first she seemed kind of helpless, but then was like...
Yeah, like just one small exposure to the arrow, and suddenly she's a freaking superhero and is going to take this guy out,
Yeah.
And a little bit her personality after that versus our introduction to her and this guy seemed a little at odds, but yeah, whatever. I mean, it wasn't bad. That was just kind of an odd thing that struck me as a little off reading it, but
Yeah, it was like a complete personality change almost, because, I mean, obviously she had not had a great life and whatever, and was in this crappy situation, but it kind of seemed like she had accepted being a victim, and to completely flip, and then from that one thing become, like, super confident, and I'm gonna, take control of everything and whatever. I mean, maybe it happens, but it just seemed odd. It seemed like it would take...
And very abrupt, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It was very abrupt and kind of all happened at once, rather than, kind of an evolution.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a question. Jumping back to the current, like the show, do you think, because Speedy, I mean, Mia becomes the second Speedy. Mm-hmm. The first Speedy is Roy Harper, and we get a little bit of that joke in the show where he kind of like calls Roy Speedy. He just does it once, and now he's Arsenal, and that's kind of what he winds up being. Do you think they're kind of, they've taken the Thea character and they're turning her into Mia?
Yeah, I think he's called her Speedy.
Yeah, and I believe, really early, like the first episode, second episode, I think he called her Speedy as well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, that's the pet nickname that he's had for her since the beginning, and so I'm like, I don't think Thea was ever. I don't think she was ever Speedy in the comics, and so I'm wondering if she's going to be Speedy number 2. I mean, she'll essentially be Speedy number 1, but
yeah.
I would think so. Especially once they started training her, or her whatever. Once Malcolm started training her, that's what I suspected was happening.
Yeah, that definitely seems the way that they're going with it. Mm-hmm. But then again, who knows? Maybe it'll be Laurel.
Ridiculous.
Well,
they've kind of like they've started retconning things or adding in little hints, and now they mention that she's Dinah. So I think she's going to remain as the Black Canary.
Yeah.
Even though they're going to do weird stuff with this spin-off series, which is going to apparently see the comeback of I've already forgotten the sister's name. Sarah?
How does?
Yeah.
Oh no, she's coming back.
I don't know. I don't know how it works, but that's what they're saying is going to happen. Is that they're going to have the Rogues are going to be in the spin-off show. That Adam will move over to the spin-off show. That Sarah Lance is going to move over to the spin-off show.
That's weird.
And so I'm curious how this is all going to happen and how it's going to work.
I haven't heard a whole lot about the spinoff, but I'm a little concerned because you mentioned some characters that I didn't realize they were going to put over there. It seems like it's really messy.
Yeah.
Like Adam and Firestorm and...
To me, it doesn't make any sense to pull out the Rogues. They're one of the Flash's core villains. I mean, yes, we could see it overdone easily. I mean, Captain Cold is probably already getting old for people, but he is like Barry's main nemesis. When Barry does come back, the Rogues are like ready to retire. When they hear that Barry comes back from the crisis, they're like, "No, game on."
Well, and okay, yeah, you don't want to drill them to death in the show over and over. You don't want Captain Cold to be there to be in every episode to where it's ridiculous. But also, it doesn't really make sense at all to pull him out and make him a regular character on a different show. When, yeah, you're right, it is like Barry's main villain.
And didn't he
or the Flash
make a big deal about?
The Flash was part of the reason in earlier episodes that he wanted to like start a ruckus because he was intrigued by him.
But he made a big deal about not leaving the city because it's his city.
Yeah.
So.
I kind of laughed at that too, knowing the meta stuff, knowing that outside of this, I don't know if he isn't leaving or where this spin-off series takes place, but I don't think it takes place in either Central City or Star City.
I don't think a team-up show is a terrible idea. It just seems like weird the way they're doing it.
Yeah, and the characters that they're choosing to put together.
Like, I don't know that Adam would be able to stand his own show, but like they introduced the Flash, or at least Barry's character in Arrow, and then spun it off. That makes sense. It's just weird to like, I don't know. The characters don't mesh. The people that they've mentioned are going into this team up show don't seem to mesh to me.
Mm-hmm. And
right.
If there was going to be one character that would be like the main character, I would see it being the Atom, mostly because the actor seems more like a leading actor. But
who, Superman?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I'm finally getting over seeing him as just Superman.
Yeah, it's hard not to, but
it's Superman looking.
But I don't know about the others, and I really hope they don't. How are they going to kill her off and then bring her back when I never liked her anyway, and she has a butt face, and they need to not use her.
Yeah, I don't think she's the best actress, but I have more beef with Laurel. At least what they've done with Laurel, she doesn't make any. It doesn't make any. I don't know. She just
at least Sarah, like her training makes sense, but like. You put Laurel in the costume, and it's like, okay, first of all, why is she using a bow staff at all? She had no training with a bow staff. Sarah did, but no.
There was a little bit where she used a nightstick.
Yeah, that'd be all right. I mean, if that's what she trained with Wildcat, I guess.
I don't think she did. She just had it.
Punching.
But if she's gonna steal her sister's girlfriend, maybe she'll get a little better. And...
That definitely seems to be the way it's going. Again, I think we might be an episode behind, but the last episode we watched, it definitely seems like
they're getting very friendly.
Yeah, kind of.
They allude to it in this most recent episode, but they don't. I mean,
okay, yeah, it just seemed like a pickup at the end of that episode.
Yeah,
like, and I understand, it was. She loved her sister. Well, they both loved her sister, and they're sad and blah blah blah. So they're gonna hang out, which is kind of weird anyway. But just the way it was approached, it felt like a pickup.
Mm-hmm. For all things nerdy, visit the Grawlix Podcast YouTube channel at youtube.com/Grawlix Podcast. There are new videos every week. Get the scoop on current headlines with Comic News Roundup, hosted by Animated Randall and Melanie. Listen to full podcast reruns with chapter skips to jump right to the stories that interest you, and access to the all-new and amazing shows that try to pop out of our brains and into your eye holes. That's youtube.com/Grawlix Podcast.
So you got some webcomic stuff to talk about?
A web recommendation?
Webcomic recommendation?
I feel like we should call these shout-outs more than anything, because I'm not going to recommend a webcomic I don't like, and most of the ones I like are going to be my friends already. But anyways, my shout-out / recommendation is going to be Rain Dogs, which is written by Stephen McGee, and you can find it at raindogcomic.com. This is one of those comics that, it's like a save the best for last kind of thing. So it's like I could have reviewed this right out of the gate because it's one of my favorites. It's one of the comics that I read every time he posts. But, it's like I'm kind of biased. So when I have a bias, I tend to save it. So Rain Dogs, the original premise for the webcomic was that it's about kind of the swan song of the record store, and by record we mean, actual vinyl. Mm-hmm. And so the way that the comic starts, it's kind of a long form comic in that even though you have kind of a gag-a-day premise, it's about two guys that are essentially running a record store, even though records are essentially faded out to the point where collectors are the ones that are most interested in buying vinyl. And so you get to see the kind of wacky antics that they go through and the strange adventures that they go on. And he has a long form story that involves kind of a Mad Max crew of senior citizens that get woven into the storyline. And it's a lot of fun, even though it takes place in kind of a serious subject matter of, being a collector and vinyl and music and what, how that's changed over the eras. He's got this awesome, almost non sequitur vibe to the strip where just random things happen and you're like, oh my God, that's awesome and crazy and funny. So he's got a book out at his, in his store. So definitely check it out. And that is, his first volume, and it collects kind of the major story arc of the beginning of the strip. And, now, if you are following raindogcomic.com, if you're following what he's up to now, he's kind of shifted gears into more of a almost single panel style storytelling, which is kind of crazy. It's like when I think about single panel, Far Side is usually the one that people think about because Gary Larson really just nailed that. Gary Larson was kind of ahead of his time because webcomics a lot of times are going back to that. If you want to get that quick fix viral element to your webcomic, you go single panel because that's going to get a lot of shares. Mm-hmm. It's just a one, people will scroll through their feed, they'll see this one panel drop and they'll stop and read it. Especially if there's something crazy going on in that panel, they're going to go, what is this about? So they'll read the dialogue and the caption. So that's kind of where Rain Dogs is right now, and I highly recommend it. Right now, Stephen McGee has a really good guest strip up at Ninja and Pirate, which we reviewed in the past, which I highly recommend you go check out as well at ninjaandpirate.com.
They've had a couple guest strips up lately on Ninja and Pirate, that is, and
I even did one. So not only go see Rain Dogs, but also go see Ninja and Pirate because there's a lot of fun things happening. Joe Flanders over there, he just recently had a child, so he's on like a slight hiatus right now, and that's why you're seeing so many guest strips up over there.
Oh, that's awesome though. That people kind of step in and contribute.
Oh yeah, the webcomic community is awesome for stepping up and helping out. So congratulations to Joe, by the way.
Yep, I've got some names if you need any.
Melody's got names for your child. She just wants to name things. Things being children. I don't even think that part of the conversation is going to end up in the episode, but this part probably will. Oh, well. It's going to seem really weird.
So on the break, we were talking about naming things.
Yep. All right. I have no good segue for this one. So the moral of the story is, webcomics are good, and that's like a fable, and fables are like pull lists, and pull lists happen to include fables. Yep.
Very good.
And sometimes
not really, but thank you.
And sometimes even bad guys. Bring out the bad guys.
Okay.
Did we talk about that on air?
Oh, I don't know. Was that on air? We talked about it.
I don't know when you started
I
recording.
can cut it in. It could be on air. No, let's say we didn't.
Okay.
So yeah, we're gonna talk about Fables. If you can't tell from that lovely segue. But first, we're going to, as we usually do, pick our next poll list pick. The winner this month is Marvel Bring On the Bad Guys.
Yeah. Which is good because we need to read more Marvel anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely need more Marvel in my diet.
I only need more Marvel to round out my readership, but I really just want a whole bunch of indie stuff.
Just pretend it's indie.
Yeah, I will. I'll try.
Just get some Image Comic stickers and stick it over the Marvel logo.
Okay.
And maybe you'll feel better.
Yeah.
There's a slap a Grawlix on by Stan Lee.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Okay.
Or slap a Grawlix on Stan Lee himself.
Oh, that would be awesome.
I like how excited you were about that.
90-year-old man's got a Grawlix sticker in his forehead.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And he's just like, Excelsior!
That's what I was picturing in my head.
We should totally make some Grawlix stickers, like the big Grawlix, and then in the corner have the little scan it to the web, scan it with your phone and take it to the website, and then just go slap them on everything and everyone, especially at like a con. That would rock. Let's do it. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's a good idea. Jesse and I have talked a little bit about Grawlix stickers, and that's the slap a Grawlix on it. We go find some foul graffiti somewhere. Slap a Grawlix sticker on it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, just make sure.
It's public service. It's community service. We're just cleaning things up a little bit. So slap a Grawlix on it, folks.
It's certainly not self-promotion.
No. Grawlixpodcast.com, Grawlixpodcast.com, Grawlixpodcast.com.
All right, so yeah, for next month, we are going to read some of Marvel's Bring On the Bad Guys, I believe is the title.
Yes.
It's kind of a lofty book, and next month we will be beginning. God, that's a odd sentence to spit out.
We be
beginning.
Man.
Dead Air. The Dead Air segment will start, so we are also going to start reading through some Walking Dead trades, and discussing that on the show. So, since Bring On the Bad Guys is pretty lofty, and I believe, as Jesse has stated before, it's also, some Stan Lee and older Marvel stuff, so it's a little wordy. We're going to break that one in half. So Bring On the Bad Guys will probably be the poll list pick for the next 2 episodes. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I thought so.
So next time, it looks like we are going to go ahead and conquer Dr. Doom, the Dread Dormammu, and don't send me hate mail if I pronounce that wrong, and Loki. So we've got some fan favorites in the first half already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
And I hope you did not pronounce that wrong, because that sounds like so much fun to say.
If I pronounced it wrong, I have been pronouncing it wrong most of my life.
Yeah. Well, I do pronounce stuff wrong all the time, and that's okay.
Segue sound?
No, sorry. Yeah, it was kind of a segue sound. No, I was wondering if I had Outlook on my phone, because that is where our Grawlix email is. But I don't, because you mentioned hate mail, and it got me thinking, I wonder if we got any emails, but I don't think we do.
Was it, let's inspire a little bit of hate mail.
Yeah.
Was it letters? Letters at Grawlix?
Yep. Letters at grawlixpodcast.com. So if you send us some hate mail or some love mail, we will read it on the next episode. That's something like the mailbag, the letters page section is something I would like to do. So send us some questions or your thoughts on something we've talked about, or your thoughts on something we will be talking about, like Marvel's Bring on the Bad Guys or Walking Dead. And we'll address it on the show, because that sounds like a lot of fun. I'm not on my game. I am not on my game today. If it's not apparent.
I don't think it sounds genuine when you laugh yet.
Because that sounds like a lot of fun. No, I am excited. I just, people need to email us.
Yeah. People need it.
Correspondence.
What?
Correspondence.
Yeah.
We know you're out there. We've heard the analytics stats saying that you're out there. So we want to hear what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Did that make sense?
Yeah.
We need feedback. Feed us.
Yes. Yeah.
Feedback. However, this month we'll be talking about Fables. You were going to say something, though. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, in a previous episode, I had mentioned that I might choose something later or something other than the beginning Fables, because it gets so much better. But I couldn't think of it. I couldn't think of where to jump in where it wouldn't spoil things you had already learned earlier on, or that where you wouldn't have needed to read earlier on to know what was going on.
Basically, there's no good jumping on points other than the beginning.
Right. But it does get better.
So I enjoyed the beginning. So we read the first, basically, Fables trade paper, or Fables Volume 1, the first trade, contains issues 1 through 5.
By Bill Willingham, Lan Medina, and Steve Leola. Wait. Leola?
Can I see it? I don't know why I think I would do better.
Liehola.
Leia Loa?
Yeah. Sounds good.
Loa. Sounds very Hawaiian. I mean, I don't know that it is, but that's what it makes me think.
So, okay. So we're going to get into it. This is the review proper. We're going to do this one right. So Fables, the basic setup is that all the fairy tale stories and the characters like Jack and the Beanstalk and all those, the Big Bad Wolf, basically they are all characters. The Fables was like fairy tales took place in actual places, and those places got overthrown by the adversary, and basically all these fable characters were exiled into the real world, where they now live in New York with regular people, but they can't let the regular people know anything about that. But
I wouldn't really say so much that they were exiled as that they escaped and they're kind of refugees.
Yeah.
And they refer to our world as the Mundy world.
Yeah. Imagine, because It's mundane.
Exactly.
So, initial thoughts. It reminds me of Once Upon a Time, which is a television show that's out that I don't actually watch, but I've seen like a couple episodes just 'cause.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of that, and it also reminds me of like Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The way you got like the Muggles, the people that just don't know that magic exists.
Yeah.
So the Mundy, I mean, like when you say Mundy, I have a hard time not thinking Muggles, but that's because I've read all the Harry Potters.
Yeah, me too.
I hadn't even made that connection, but yeah, that's
yeah. I automatically did, and I do think of it every time. But yeah,
it's exactly the same type of thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Fables, most of them live in this section of New York that they kind of titled Fabletown.
Mm-hmm.
And the Fables that look human generally are fine. The Fables that don't usually look human either have to purchase this elixir?
I think they call it a glamour.
Yeah, purchase a glamour.
It's a spell, I believe.
That makes them look normal, or they have to go live on the farm upstate, away from the Mundys, so that the normal people are none the wiser. Mm-hmm. We had played the first episode of the Telltale games, The Wolf Among Us, which is the Fables, the video game, basically. Mm-hmm. And I was surprised at how similar because that was my first exposure to the Fables setting at all. Mm-hmm. It's very similar to this first story. It's not exactly the same, but it follows. Your main characters are Bigby, who is the big bad wolf. Mm-hmm. He's pretty much the police officer or the detective.
He's the sheriff.
The sheriff of Fabletown. Mm-hmm. And Snow, who's Snow White. And she's kind of runs. She's not like the mayor or whatever his title is, but she pretty much runs the government, the organized, their little government. She's in control of a lot of that.
It's like how governments normally work. There's the figurehead, and then there's the person who actually does all the work.
Yeah.
And she's the one who actually does all the work.
Yep. She's like assistant director of operations or something, but she does everything.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I had kind of exposure to the setting, and I should say the video game reestablishes a lot of the same things that this story arc sets up about the world, which wasn't an issue for me. I was a little surprised. I was like, oh, I kind of know more about this than I thought I did. Mm-hmm. But initial reactions to this first story arc of Fables, like the video game, I enjoyed it a lot. I liked the character of Bigby. Mm-hmm. And I like the premise of these fairy tale characters. Like, I like the idea that they have to, what we basically just talked about. I like that premise, and it's kind of set to this murder mystery detective story, and I really like that a lot.
Mm-hmm. It's fun that they pull in like kind of these strange little fairy tale, almost just like rhymes. Like Little Boy Blue is just like an extra. Mm-hmm. Because he doesn't have much of a story, if we're honest about it. It's like, Little Boy Blue, come blow your horn. And so now he's kind of just an extra guy that's going to help out with the investigation, and Big B's going to go ahead and boss him around a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And, as later on, especially as you go through the book, you're introduced to more characters. But there's a lot of stories that are kind of obscure that they bring in eventually. Mm-hmm. But I like that they have, the regular like fairy tale heroes, and then they have the bad guys, but they're not bad guys in the storyline. They're like, in the Fable world you were a bad guy, but we were all, in the same situation, running away, trying to, stay alive. So all your bad deeds in whatever world you came from are forgiven, and here, everybody's kind of equal.
Yeah, you kind of start over. They mention it several times, because while Big B is investigating this murder, occasionally when he's like questioning someone, it'll be like, well, didn't you this when you in Fableland, you know? And they're like, that's from before. That's what's the word?
Yeah, amnesty. Basically, Jack was a giant killer. He went on a giant killing spree, but that was before amnesty, and we can't bring it up now.
Yeah,
right.
Well, and Big B himself was the big bad wolf in several stories.
Right. Yeah. I like that also. That like the Big B was in several stories, and Jack, besides just being the giant slayer, I don't know if that they bring that up in this run, but was the Jack from like all the stories where there's a Jack, pretty much. You know?
Oh, I wondered if he was Jack be nimble, Jack be quick. I was wondering about that because they kind of give him this idea that he's kind of a con man, and so I was like, that sounds like Jack be nimble, Jack be quick, but then they reference the giant killing.
Yeah. No, he's the Jack from several different stories. And, I guess they didn't bring that up in these comics, but you do find out later that he's from several different ones.
Mm-hmm. So, they introduce you to the basic concept pretty quick. I believe the first issue, where you, is it Jack, who is rushing over to Big B's? And Jack is found this bloody scene, but it really gets into setting up the world. The next scene is I call them scenes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's Snow, and she's dealing with Beauty and the Beast, and right away, like I was impressed with the way that they handle like kind of taking these crazy fairy tale concepts where. It's the Beauty's love that makes the Beast look human, and now they've been married for so long, and their relationship's not so good. So he looks like a beast, and that's an issue because he needs to look normal, and they can't afford a glamour to make him look good. And it's the idea is she doesn't love him, and there's this marital thing. Like I really enjoyed that, and it sets kind of the tone, but it also like. Does a really good job at like establishing a lot of the rules of the world, but in a very entertaining way.
Yeah. It hooked me right away. And it was it was like you said, a real organic way to do exposition without like saying it. They said it, but it was like in a pseudo, almost therapy session with Snow White. And so you get to introduce a whole bunch of like characters that may be interesting and may be important, but aren't super important to the story at large, but kind of ground you in what is the setting. Oh
yeah, and it establishes Snow White's role in the world right off. It does. It like you said, it hooked you. It hooked me right away, and that was that first scene. I was on board with that, with it after that, and I think the characters are handled really well. Like you get a good grasp at the personalities of like Big B. I like Big B. It seems like you get a good grasp on his character and Snow White, and most of the characters that play a major role in this storyline anyway. They feel fairly fleshed out. Yeah. Prince Charming is pretty amusing because he's just a total sleazy dirtbag who, like a male gigolo sort.
Yeah, like McDreamy if he were a bad guy.
Yeah,
kind of, but not really a bad guy, just kind of a red herring bad guy.
But he has to be because like once again, how many stories has Prince Charming been in?
Yeah.
Right. And that became a question in my mind too, because you kind of got obviously you got the sense that him and Snow White had history, but then you also sort of got the idea that Cinderella was involved with Prince Charming. Is that the fact, or is that the case?
Yeah, I know for sure it's Snow White, Cinderella, and Sleeping Beauty.
Okay.
I'm not sure about who else.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in this, Prince Charming our kind of introduction to him is he basically picks up a waitress, and very quickly you get that he's a dirtbag because he stays the night at her house, and the next day he's like, I helped myself to some of your money in your purse, and I left some laundry here. If you'd do that before I get back, that'd be great, and all this and that. And it's just like, and then he takes off, and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He lives off of...
Yeah.
He lives off of his good looks and his abilities in the bedroom.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of humor in this, and I appreciated that. Again, I mentioned taking the concept, but applying it in, organic, but kind of like realistic, adding like a level of realism to the pretty out there concept.
Right.
There's some kind of somber moments that Bigby has. I can't remember specifically offhand, but there's like he hits some serious moments. Like I can tell that the series won't shy away from drama.
Right.
And I think the characters are well written enough that it seems like the drama would have impact. There's some drama in this, but I could see, I could see it setting up more.
The story begins with, what's his name? Jack.
Yes.
Coming in, and there's blood all over, and they have to go in and investigate. And then the blood, supposedly, belongs to Rose Red. Right?
Yeah.
Now, Rose Red, is she Little Red Riding Hood? That was one of the things I was kind of stumbling over. Is who is she? She's Snow White's sister, but is she in a fable, or is she just Snow White's sister?
She is not Little Red Riding Hood. I don't actually know this, but this is what I wanted to bring up. She's one of those characters that probably should have looked it up by now, but I haven't because I just accepted it. I had never heard of Rose Red. I don't know who she is, but I'm assuming there's some sort of fairy tale about her.
I'm going to find out.
Okay.
Yeah, no, me too. I was not familiar, but I didn't question it because there's a lot of fairy tales I'm unfamiliar with.
Mm-hmm. In fact, we run into more just in this storyline that I didn't really know about.
Yeah. Well, and that was, I don't know, like it kind of bugged me kind of thing because I got to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of didn't like that. Like I said, I just accepted it, but I didn't like that she's Rose Red because that totally makes me think of Stephen King. And yeah. And so I'm like, I need to get that out of my brain because that's just gonna sour her character for me a little bit.
She's a house and she keeps building herself.
Yeah.
Let's see, Snow White and Rose Red, which kind of makes sense now. The naming scheme.
Yeah.
Right.
Wikipedia says Snow White and Rose Red is a German fairy tale. The best known version is the one collected by the Brothers Grimm as tale number 161. Let's see. An older, somewhat shorter version, The Ungrateful Dwarf, was written by Carolyn Stahl. Let's see. It is not to be confused with the Grimm fairy tale Snow White, that provided, the story that we know. Mm-hmm. This is a completely different version of Snow White, and she has nothing in common with the other one, other than sharing her name in English and having an encounter with a dwarf.
I know what their story is later on.
Okay, they're two little girls living with their mother, a poor widow, in a small cottage.
Yeah.
They are very good little girls. They love each other dearly, and their mother is very fond of them. Rose Red is outspoken and cheerful and loves to play outside. Snow White is quiet and shy and prefers doing housework and reading. Let's see, there's a knock at the door. Rose Red opens the door to find a bear.
It stays for the winter.
This is a whole thing.
Yeah, it's a big long story.
But it's, not...
They do tell the story later, but I didn't know that was specifically the...
Okay, yeah. So
it is, I guess, then another fairy tale. But again, she's both Snow Whites.
Mm-hmm.
She's the Snow White from, the Disney movie, and she's the one from that German story.
And apparently you don't ever mention the dwarves to her, or she gets very upset.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
There's a
Okay, that gets interesting then. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was unfamiliar with that story. But like I said, there's a lot of fairy tales I don't know of, so
yeah.
I was just like, okay, I'll roll with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, Rose Red is missing or dead.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where the murder investigation, or the general investigation, goes from there.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, like, a detective story, I thought it was good. There was some interesting stuff. In the end, it's not totally unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I kind of guessed it.
Yeah. I liked how much fun Bigby and I forget what they call him, because they call him something different later. But the fly guy,
Mm-mm.
Oh, maybe.
What do they have him do in the story?
I think he just helps out, like assists a little bit, and probably Boy Blue and stuff. How much fun they have, like investigating, like recreating the scenes and things like that.
That was a good scene. Yeah, absolutely. Kind of halfway through, they have to recreate the scene of the crime with the blood to find out how much was used.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what was his name though?
Flycatcher?
Yeah, something like
the
that.
redhead in the coveralls.
He's kind of the custodian in the building.
Yeah, I think they call him Flycatcher, but he's basically the Frog Prince, but he's in human form.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch that reference. That makes a lot more sense now.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, was he in the video game then?
I'm not sure.
Because there's a frog
character.
Oh
no, that's
a different frog. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's not easy being green.
That's a callback to multiple things, but also a callback to a very old episode. Well, not very
Swampy.
old,
but that's a Swamp Thing callback right there.
Yep.
But yeah, besides just recreating, I think Bigby specifically had a lot of fun just being the detective,
Oh yeah.
Because I don't think a lot of his job is detective work. I think it's just stop doing that and
settling minor regular type police work.
Right.
I think even jumping, because I'm going to mention it now. It's jumping towards the end, but as he describes it, the parlor scene.
Yeah.
He has a long speech about there's in mysteries, there's always the parlor scene where the detective or whoever gets to spell it all out, what happened, figured out, who, what happened, who it happened to, and how he figured it out. And Bigby relishes in that, and he has this big speech about most police and most detectives don't ever get a blah blah blah, get a chance at something like this, and I'm gonna savor it. And he just draws it out to where everybody's standing around like, well, what is it? And he just keeps going on about the parlor scene before he actually spills it out, the parlor scene. I enjoyed that quite a bit. Go ahead.
We're jumping back.
Yes.
But initially they, have to assume that
she's dead.
Some foul play happened, and going through the suspects, they initially suspect Jack, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then establish right away that he's like a shifty character, not to be trusted, and whatnot. And then the second person I believe that they suspect is Bluebeard. And that's another one that I think I had heard of him, but I wasn't familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Go ahead.
And Bluebeard is very wealthy because in a way he kind of exploited a lot of the other Fables. he was able to assist in a lot of them getting out in exchange for a lot of wealth. He has a TARDIS apartment.
Yeah. Yes!
It's larger he has an entire, like, they go into his apartment, and they even mentioned beforehand, he's got so much money, he's surprised he lives in such a small apartment, and they go in and he has literally a whole castle in his apartment. So that was pretty awesome.
Yep.
And he's not the most likable character at all. He's definitely a kind of a...
Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does seem a lot like a Lex Luthor. But
with a goatee.
Yeah. But the Bluebeard story is, I think he was supposed to have been a pirate or something, but he would married women and then murder them.
Yeah, and they throw that at him several times, and again, that's one of those things that's legally been forgiven. It was before the exile or the whatever. But yeah, that gets mentioned several times.
Yeah, but it makes him a suspect because apparently he was engaged to Rose Red. So.
Yeah, I mean, do we want to... I know we talked spoilers, but do we want to get into the whole exactly what happened or not?
I don't know, babe. I thought we always did spoilers.
Well, we do, but sometimes, sometimes it's not always necessary to the review, and then sometimes, like in Green Arrow, kind of, if we're going to talk about it, we kind of have to talk spoilers. I'm not sure.
I think in the case of a whodunit, like which we are talking about right now, folks, now would be a good time to maybe check out and jump ahead and make sure that we don't spoil this for you if you're interested in reading this, because it is kind of fun.
Yeah,
it is.
Okay, so yeah, we'll talk about it a bit, and if you want, if you're listening to this on YouTube or on our website, in the show notes or the description below, there will be timestamps. Just go ahead and jump to after this segment. Jump to probably the It's All Pizza outro segment, and you'll be good.
Inevitably, pizza.
Yep. Okay, so the investigation goes on, and there's suspects. Bluebeard is torturing Jack at one point, and Bigby comes in on that, and wolfs out, and that was a lot of fun to see him at least just wolf out.
Yes, it was like the other shoe dropped. It was like the thing I was waiting for since we saw the Beast being pseudo Beast. I was like, oh, he's the big bad wolf. We need to see him as a wolf.
Oh, I also appreciated the that Snow White and some other people showed up late, too late anyway. Like Bigby had the situation under control, but she had the Vorpal blade.
Yeah.
From the Jabberwocky.
Yes, sir.
Poem.
Snicker snack.
Yeah.
Snicker snack.
And when she mentioned that, I even thought, like, gauging from like the artwork, I was like, she's really just kind of flouncing about with that. It doesn't look very safe. But then Bigby even mentions, like, you probably want to be a little more careful with that.
Yeah.
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 Being that my company name, my DBA is Vorpal Arrows Studios, I definitely keyed into that. I also really I feel like we should throw a disclaimer in here, and we probably should have done it at the beginning. Fables is one of those Vertigo titles that does not adhere to the comics code.
Oh yeah.
So when we get to see Big B really wolf out, he's like, I'll rip your Grawlix throat out.
Oh yeah. Yeah. This is
this is not for kids, ladies and gentlemen, even though it's fairy tales.
Oh yeah, good call. We definitely should have specified that.
These are grown-up fairy tales.
Grown-up fairy tales. Well, it's fairy tales, but in the real world, in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's where all comics happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyway, Bigby ends up, he's starting to put pieces together, and then at one point he definitely starts kind of enlisting people like they don't know what their role is exactly, but he ends up kind of getting the ball rolling into basically the situation piecing itself together. He comes up with this plan involving Prince Charming, who was trying to sell his lands, which are no good to them, but he wants to sell his lands off, so he comes up with this plan for a raffle, and he's got Jack set to do things at this remembrance celebration. Bluebeard is in custody, but he allows him out to go to the celebration. So he kind of puts together his own little plan, basically just setting up his parlor scene, really.
Yeah.
He asked that he tells Snow White that she needs to be there. She needs to go with him, as if it were part of this plan. Although it ends up being she puts the last piece in place for him. So yeah, they have this big Remembrance Day celebration, and that really gives you there's this big speech, and that really gives you a lot of the backstory as to what happened. Like, you don't know who the adversary is exactly, but what happened to drive them all out of the fairy tale lands.
Right.
And then it's kind of there that he reveals, what happened and
after getting out of the swim pool.
Okay, so I like it. I like it, but it doesn't seem like there's much time. Like, he's talking to Snow White. She says something that kind of triggers a thought in his head that finalizes cements his theory, I guess. And then he's like, well, have everybody meet me wherever, up on the roof. And there's a swimming pool up there. And so when, the scene goes to up there, he's swimming before everybody gets there. And he gets out and he's in a robe. And everybody shows up. And the remembrance thing is still happening. They're all in their suits and stuff. So, he ran up there and was like, I got 5 minutes. I'm going to take a swim.
Yeah, have some think.
Yeah. Well, clear your head.
But I like...
Wait, what?
Yeah.
It's a Sherlock Holmes type of thing where he's got to have his moment.
Oh, yeah. I liked it because it definitely... For one, it kind of enforces this, as a character, he doesn't really care. He's just like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And then, it also sets it up so that while everybody's in formal wear, while he gets to be the center of attention and give his parlor scene speech, he's sitting there wet in a robe with no shoes on, standing in front of all of... I thought that was odd, but I kind of really enjoyed... I don't know. I enjoyed it as a setup to that scene. And Rose Red is at the party. It's the big
Whoop!
reveal.
Wait, what?
Yep.
I thought she was almost dead.
Yeah, and he'd even told Snow White that she was dead. And, I think at that point he claims he knew she wasn't, but just to see her reaction, I guess.
Everyone's a suspect.
Yeah, everyone's a suspect. But it turns out, should I just do
that? So, was he trolling her?
So, her and Jack, Rose Red that is, and Jack, who are a couple, hatched this plan to fake her death. Because she had, a year prior, made a contract to marry Bluebeard in exchange for a large sum of money. I'm guessing they blew through that money. Oh, yeah, they blew through that money on .com startups that failed, that Jack had invested in, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
And this came out also around the same time as that Green Arrow story we read, early 2000s.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's been going for 10.
Well, I knew it's been around. I've heard of it for sure. But I didn't know that that's when it started. Huh.
So they even say, the .com bubble had already burst, and that it's like Jack to jump on it after it's too late anyway. So yeah, they got money from Bluebeard and then concocted this thing, this whole plan to fake her death till after they were supposed to she was supposed to marry Bluebeard. And was that just to, I don't understand. I don't think they had a very good plan because I don't understand what their plan was after that.
Yeah.
So
I have serious issues with your fairy tale plan.
yeah, well, and they kind of like play at that they're not the brightest, and it wasn't a very good plan. So yeah, I mean that's basically it. That was the whole thing. And like I said, I did kind of see it coming that she had faked it.
Yeah. At a certain point, I was like, if we don't know that she's dead by now, then she might be part of the problem.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you're on the last issue of a 5-issue arc and there's still no body, probably not dead.
Yeah.
Unlike the video game, in which case they find a severed head on the stairs of the apartment complex, there's definitely a murder in the video game.
You know, if they're going to do a video game based off of something like this, then they've got to kind of like alter it in a way that you're like, whoa, right off the bat.
Mm-hmm. One thing at the very end I really enjoyed is that Snow White was like, so why was part of your plan to, like, why did I have to go to you to the dance? How did that serve the plan? And he's like, I just wanted you to go to the dance with me. And Snow White did not take that very well.
There was all sorts of Easter eggs that were kind of fun, like the 3 little pigs, the pig that would come and stay with Big B, and then he's just like, just in the panels, like here and there, like he'll be in the city, he'll be sleeping behind a bush, and he's just like there, and I'm like, yeah. 3 little pigs, y'all.
I almost thought that was going to have something to do with it. I almost thought like maybe he witnessed something, but it didn't. He was just out and about. Yeah. Him sleeping behind the bush was one of my favorites. It's just like the pig laying back behind this bush. It was a lot of like,
it off. Yeah,
a lot of or he was like laying in the back of some random truck. A lot of establishing shots where it would, have a panel of outside of the restaurant somebody's in or something like that. He was usually outside chilling somewhere when he was supposed to be hiding out or get sent back to the farm.
Yeah.
Do they do anything with the farm? Like, is there a trade where they kind of go to the farm? Because I'm intrigued now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh yeah.
Fairly soon, it becomes a big part of the storyline. So yeah.
Cool.
I like little things, like when he was trying to, figuring out what had happened or whatever, and he's talking about only the crap CDs were strewn all over, the good CDs were missing, and just stupid little stuff like that they.
Oh yeah, like so they had faked this scene. It was actually her blood.
Yeah.
But it was blood that they had like slowly stored up so that it didn't kill her, obviously, to gather this blood. And I did notice that in the first issue, that the blood was splattered everywhere except the stereo was spotless. That area there was no blood.
Yeah.
And then he picked up the
leave it to the musician to notice that.
Yeah.
Yes, I suppose so. And then like he picked up the ashtray, and there were clues that he picked up on as a character that a couple of them I thought about, but I still thought, going into it, I still thought, yeah, she might be dead because they, played on that kind of heavy through most of it.
Yeah.
Final thoughts.
Well, obviously I like Fables because I'm still reading it.
I think you're almost current.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But, I like it. I liked it from the beginning. This has nothing to do with it, but real quick. The covers are always really awesome. I love them. And I don't want to necessarily say I'm disappointed, but I'd prefer it if the inside art maybe was a little bit more aesthetically appealing than it is. And it's always like that.
Well, I mean, yeah, the covers, at least on these first issues, had a very were like painted, have a very painted look. Yeah. Speaking of, I thought the art was. I mean, it's not like a crazy painted art like the covers, which I'm sure is what you're getting at. But I thought the art in general looked pretty nice. Yeah,
I mean it's okay, but for as fancy as the covers are, I would think it would go more like Swamp Thing or Sandman, where they have
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Just some more interesting, elaborate things going on.
Not in comic books.
No. But they don't have space because it is a very wordy comic.
Oh yeah, it is kind of wordy.
Always. It's one of the ones that it takes me longer to get through. Mm-hmm. But I enjoy it.
It's much more dialogue driven.
Yes.
At least this arc was than a lot of comics.
Mm-hmm. But it's worth it.
I liked it.
Yeah, I would definitely. I do plan on reading further on because I like the characters a lot.
Yeah, and it gets better. There's so many good things that happen. It just it depends on how far you want to go.
Well, and you kept saying, well, it gets so much better, and I'm sure it does.
It does.
So I was a little concerned going into this, but I was like, oh no, I like this. I like the story quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Made me think of Saga a little bit, and not because it should, but it did because there was that fairy tale magical element to it, but set against something that's very real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few indie titles that are really good about that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I say indie. It's hard to call Image Comics indie anymore. They do pretty big numbers, but you know what I mean.
It's because they're
awesome. and this being Vertigo, it's basically DC, but it's the pseudo indie wing of DC.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is Vertigo. I was thinking Image.
Well, Saga was Image, so
yeah,
you weren't far off.
Well, I mentioned the video game, and we only played the first episode because they break them into episodes. They're very much like the Walking Dead Telltale games.
Okay.
Which we've mentioned on the show before, but it's totally like almost all story. I mean, there's bits where you can walk around and investigate the area, and then you go talk to characters, and the amount of voiceover recording they have to do is pretty crazy. Mm-hmm. But it's the thing where you get to like interact with people and then choose your response, and then the conversation kind of varies from there.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like a modern choose your own adventure.
Yeah, really, it really is. Mm-hmm. So in that respect, the video game was really, really cool because it plays out like a movie. It's like you're watching a TV show. Mm-hmm. And it's super atmospheric, and it kind of fit the tone of what this would be if this was... Well, the video game was a little bit darker, I think. There was a lot more that happened at night, like literally darker, but it had like just the music. It had that, not film noir, but kind of a noirish detective story feel.
Yeah, it definitely did.
So I was really surprised at how close, although it makes sense if they're going to make a video game based on the book, start at the beginning with this kind of introductory type story set to a murder mystery. Was a good way to handle it. But yeah, the video game was cool. The comic book was awesome, and I definitely will read more. Yep. I recommend it.
I'm kind of intrigued by the video game now. So
yeah, the first episode. I'm not sure how many maybe 6 or 8 episodes. It's kind of like how they did the Walking Dead games.
Sure, and Back to the Future they did kind of a similar situation too. I think it was 5 episodes or something like that.
And they gave the first one, I think, is free, or at least on the 360, the first episode was free. Kind of like a demo. Mm-hmm. I mean, it kind of makes sense,
right?
But it's a pretty good hour plus of gameplay, given that the gameplay is like watching a TV show most of the time. Mm-hmm. So that's like an hour-long program almost. Mm-hmm. There's some kind of actiony bits where you got to like hit buttons at the right time or react to like this somebody's attacking you or something.
Oh yeah, that's exactly like The Walking Dead. Because you'd have an encounter with a zombie and you'd have to hit certain buttons or else you're dead. But then you just start right back where you left off, basically.
Yeah. Those could be a little challenging, especially when you go from... Because it's a kind of a sudden, like, shift in mindset where you're like...
Yeah.
It's kind of laid back watching this, like, show happen that you get to interact with occasionally. And then all of a sudden it's like... Hit Y, hit X, hit Y, shake the joystick. And it's like, whoa, what's happening?
Yeah, do it fast. Come on, you're dying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we got to wrap this thing up. Put a bow on it.
Yep.
The show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did we talk about Grawlix Bytes on here at all, Jesse?
We did not. And so Grawlix Bytes should be coming down the pipeline if it hasn't aired before this episode. Grawlix Bytes is going to be a quick bite of any kind of subject that we feel like covering. And it's going to be a little shorter episode, and we may package bites together. We're not even really sure how this is going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's going to be additional content, which is always good news. And that's going to give us an opportunity to kind of address these things. I mean, every month, we do this podcast monthly because it's kind of hard to read at least 2 trade paperbacks in a month, depending on how crazy busy the month is.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But so much happens in a month. Like this month, we had, we could talk about how it's April Fool's because this episode's coming up in April,
Mm-hmm.
or we could talk about, all sorts of news items that happen in a month. But it winds up being where that is maybe behind the times. So Grawlix Bytes is our opportunity to kind of address those timely things as they happen a little bit more quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And, if it's a slow news month, then maybe we won't do it. But additional content is never a bad idea, and that's what we're kind of hoping to do. So be looking for that. We're going to release that as part of our regular RSS feed.
Mm-hmm.
As a podcast. It'll probably show up on the YouTube channel as well, if you're listening there. But yeah, be on the lookout because I think we're going to see some interesting and exciting things from Grawlix Bytes.
Yeah, I like it. I think it was a fantastic idea. Yeah, we'll put it through the podcast feed. It'll show up. It's like when we do the Grawlix Nights. Grawlix Bytes.
Hey, rhyming. I like that.
It's like when we do that. We put those through the podcast feed, so it'll show up like a regular episode, just like a different imprint. But like Jesse said, it'll give us the chance to address things that might be more time sensitive, something a little more timely from month to month. By the time we hit, from one episode to the next, there's interesting stories that we might have wanted to talk about. But by the time the next month rolls around, they're cold. The story's gone cold. Plus, yeah, extra content. I think it's a great idea. Sometimes you'll get just a Jesse solo thing. Sometimes you'll get a me solo thing. You'll get 2 of 3 of us. Maybe you'll get 3 of 3 of us. It's just kind of whatever is hot.
I think if all 3 of us are available, man, that's always more fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree.
But sometimes it's hard to get all the schedules to mesh.
Yeah.
And along similar lines, if you haven't already, check out the Grawlix YouTube channel because programming is blowing up over there. In addition to the podcast, which is up there every month anyway. Because I'm a community nut, we've been Melanie and I have been reviewing or at least kind of discussing each new episode of Season 6 of Community. Those have been going up every week. We've been doing Grawlix Picks, which is kind of like staff picks for new comics each week. I'm not sure how long we'll keep that one up, but it's kind of fun for now, so we're rolling with that, seeing if people like that.
I've been enjoying it, so.
Right.
Yes.
And it gives me a reason to bust out animated Randy and Melanie again.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's a couple other things we have in the works that we probably start doing.
We've got some stuff that is written but needs to be recorded. We've got some stuff that's recorded that needs to be edited. It's, stuff like we talk, it's a little bit more broader than some of the stuff we talk about here in terms of like it's all kind of under the nerd geek umbrella, but, a little bit broader scope of topics, I guess.
Yeah.
If you like the episode, please go to the episode. We have comments on our episode pages, yes?
Yes. Yep.
So please comment. We'd love to hear what you think of the episode. Let us know what you think about Fables. Let us know what you think about Quiver. Let us know what you want to hear next on the poll list. And definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel because there's all sorts of incredible side content that's coming your way. And be looking for Grawlix Bytes. If it hasn't aired yet, then it's coming.
Ooh, and maybe movie talk too. I'm in the...
Yes, yeah. I recently had the opportunity to jump in on you guys' EMG radio, which, by the way, we really should mention that EMG 2.0 is coming out. Randy?
Yes, EMG 2.0 compilation album. It's awesome, wide variety of genres, electronic music. There's some rock stuff. There's all kinds of awesome stuff. It's a free compilation album. You can listen to it for free online. You can download it for free. We're giving it away. Get that at music.electronicmusiciansgroup.com. I really want to streamline those because in the past I've gone on about them. But yeah, new compilation album just came out like a week or two ago.
I feel like you're a new comic book character right now. You are Speed Pimp.
I am a speed pimp. I have things to give to you, and then I will be gone.
Whoa! What just happened? Who was that masked man?
Sir, you've been pimped.
Oh! The lap. Keeping his pimp hand strong.
Oh, wow. Yeah, also, Jesse was on the EMG radio, which was, I mean, it was a kind of a crowded chat, but it was awesome having Jesse on there. I just haven't promoted it much as a cross promotion, like in a cross promotion type sense, because the language on EMG radio is not very clean. So
yes, so if you're not averse to that, definitely go ahead and feel free to check that out. But if you have small children in the room, maybe don't put it on unless you have headphones.
I mean, Jesse is always a gentleman, and he kept his language squeaky clean. But there are very ungentleman-like gentlemen that were also on the show. So otherwise, I would have shared the fact that we kind of had a crossover going on. But I don't want to tarnish Jesse's good name.
You know, aside from that, it was a good time. It was a good time. Just be aware that there's some adult language that occurs.
Yep.
So there's that. What else was I going to say? I don't know. Feels like there was more than one crossover thing that happened. Oh, Brandon Lapani, who is also a member of our Electronic Media Collective podcast network. Yes.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah. We both, since the last since the last episode. Yeah, it's been that long. When we do it monthly, there's a lot of things that happen. Randy was involved in the 50th episode, and then I got to follow that up with the 51st episode, and Randy jumped in on the end, and we had a really good time with Brandon on his kind of anniversary episodes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those were fun. Your episode, I think, my first episode, I was very kind of nervous, but also extra hyped up, so, it got a little rambly. But I think your episode was awesome because you guys kept on track, and then by the time, and you guys talked about comic books and X-Men quite a bit, and then by the time I jumped on, I learned from my mistakes, and I also didn't want to trample on Jesse's guest episode, so I kind of laid back. But overall, I think that episode, the 51st episode of the Technology Geek, is a fantastic listen. Thoroughly
it was a lot
enjoyable.
Of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Super fun, and Brandon is such a gracious host. So if you haven't yet, please get over there and check out the Technology Geek. Is it technologygeek.net?
It's an org. He's got an org going on.
Org, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
TechnologyGeek.org. I'm sure there's more we could talk to people about, but we have got to wrap this thing up.
This has been Jesse, the new Turbo Ginsu. It slices, it dices, and it makes julienne fries in Grawlix different ways.
This is Randy. A boy's best friend is his Grawlix.
And this has been Melanie. Dave, this Grawlix can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Grawlix Podcast. The Grawlix Podcast is a production of Electronic Media Collective and Vorpal Arrow Studios. This podcast is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. To hear more, visit GrawlixPodcast.com, follow us on Facebook at Facebook.com/GrawlixPodcast, and like us on Twitter at Twitter.com/GrawlixPodcast.
Anything Batman related, and like Batgirl is now like super kind of happy, or at least like, I don't know, she's super confident now with the new outfit, and it's a much different take on the book. But what they did was they basically paid an homage to the Killing Joke, so they've got her like with Joker makeup smeared all over her face and super scared looking, and it just became this big issue.
Yeah, and the Joker's behind her, and he's like he's got a gun, and he's holding his hand to like her face like it's a gun, and there was, internet backlash because violence against the connotation of violence against women, and then set that against the fact that the book has taken such a different direction and kind of shooting for a different demographic than it was.
And so different than what's going on in the book at the time. And then they put it like side by side with like Catwoman, where Catwoman's knocking the Joker out with a boxing glove gun, and it's super like, like they could have gone that route with it
instead of victimized woman.
Yeah, but that's because the Killing Joke is awesome, and
I actually
so you got both arguments. Yeah,
I really like the cover. Like, the artwork is really nice.
It's really well done, yeah.
And I think that's part of what the issue is the look on Batgirl's face is kind of horrifying. And she looks horrified. And I think part of the reason it really rubbed people so wrong was, that's a weird expression, was the fact that she looks so messed up and horrified. And I think that really, like, as a piece of art, it works because it obviously hit people on a level that made them uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like it was too good.
The artist himself, and I really should know his name offhand, opted to pull the cover himself before DC or any said anything.
Right.
He said, okay, yeah, and it's just a variant. It wasn't a regular cover.
Right.
So that's kind of some people's argument for keeping the cover is that you don't have to buy it. It's not the regular cover. But
well, if you've seen it, it's out there. People are going to have it anyway. I mean, it's not going to be a cover, but
the art's out there.
The art is going to be out there.
But they pulled it from.
It's probably more popular now than it would have been if people hadn't made a stink about it anyway. So
that's kind of true.
When somebody like adapted it and just made her look less horrified and more like angry, and it was interesting how that changed the cover.
Oh, I bet it
like just changing the eyes. They didn't change anything else about it, just the eyes.
Yeah, I bet that changes it quite a bit. So yeah, I mean that's that whole thing.